Hello and welcome to Coast AM's official YouTube channel. I'm your host, George Norrie. Like, share, and subscribe to our channel. And you can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and of course, on coasttocoastam.com. The world's foremost remote viewing teacher, Major Ed Dames, U.S. Army, now retired, decorated military intelligence officer, an original member of the U.S. Army's prototype remote viewing training program. He doesn't need much of an introduction. Here is Ed Dames. Ed, welcome back.
Thank you. Good evening.
Looking forward to this. How's the family? How's everybody?
Oh, fine. I miss them. I'm back in the States now from St. Petersburg. But the last trip there was very interesting because I met my former Cold War counterparts, the Russian KGB-sized spies. So we sat down and had a coffee clash together.
How'd they treat you? Pretty good?
Oh, yeah. Treated me very well. In fact, I offered to help them out on some terrorist cases in their country.
I can't think of a better time to have you on the program with so much that seems to be going on these days, Ed. But let's do a little review, too, if we can. Killshot. A lot of people have been talking about that lately.
Well, NASA, unfortunately, in terms of doom and gloom stuff, came out with, this is not me saying it. NASA says our sun's capable of producing super flares 1,000 times stronger than any flare ever witnessed. Of course, that would fry us. And that's not what I'm saying the Killshot sequence will be. It's not going to be a super flare like that. It will be a series of very large flares that will take down power grids, and infrastructures will collapse. Governments are aware of this. That's one of the things they're aware of. Places like Denver Airport and NORAD, moving all their stuff back into Cheyenne Mountain, they know what's coming. It's an inevitability. So they're generally aware of that.
Ed, I've used your remote viewing of the Killshot along with some work of a couple people, William Forstchen and F. Michael Maloof, who have written about the power grid going down from either an EMP attack or an X-flare, and have made it my own personal pilgrimage to get this done, to get our grid insulated. We may not be able to stop a kill shot, but, man, we better do something to protect this power grid or we're going to be in deep trouble.
Well, it doesn't take that much to protect transformers, actually, but we're not doing it. That's the problem. And one thing I want to clarify, one thing about the EMPs. EMP weapon, a very large EMP weapon, there are smaller ones that are very, very directed, even a building or part of a building. But a very large EMP burst will take out sensitive electronics within the radius of about 500 miles. So it's not a nationwide thing. And those are very expensive weapons, and there aren't that many of them. So the EMPs that NORAD is worried about and that continuity of government folks are worried about under the ground in their tombs, potential tombs, are from the sun. The power grid's going down, and then social disruption as well.
Major, I'm not going to push you for a date. It's not fair. I think it's probably one of the most difficult aspects of remote viewing, and that is trying to pinpoint a date as opposed to an event. So I'm not going to ask you that. But I feel that something is getting very close, very imminent, and it could be this.
That we have not a precursor, but a highly recognizable event over the years. The best that we've done to come up with is a nuclear burst on the Korean peninsula, used in anger by the North Koreans. Mm-hmm. And we think that's going to come just prior to this series of serious solar flares.
This guy in North Korea, the son of Kim Jong-un, this kid, he's capable of doing anything crazy, isn't he?
Yes, anything at all. And even the Russians and the Chinese have tried to rein him in, but you never know what he's going to do next.
What remote projects have you been working on lately, Ed?
Oh, some very, very sexy ones, fun ones. But I wanted to preface things tonight with a very easy-to-understand example of how well remote viewing works against enigma and mysteries. I had Lex, bless his heart, put up 3 photos for me on your website. And there was a topic that was going around. In fact, Linda Moulton Howe was very interested in this back in 2007. and it was bounced around on the Coast to Coast show as well, too. There's this thing that came to be called the Dragonfly drone photos. Do you remember that? The photos are up
I do.
on the website. Yeah, I have the first photo is of one, and in that particular photograph, we use that as target reference material. We don't call that thing an object. We don't call it anything. We just assign a set of numbers to it. And I did that, and I took a look at it, and it's not an object at all. In fact, it's a computer generated graphic. There's no object in the sky. It's stuck there and superimposed between the clouds and the ground. So it's a created thing, and it was a hoax. And then I was wondering, where was the creation point? The second photo that you see on your website that Lex posted is of the actual point where the CGI program, the software, was created. That building is no longer there. It's in Silicon Valley next to Moffett Field. And then the third graphic is the principal creator's current workplace. So now that person is working at Googleplex, the Google complex up the street from the new Google campus. And I did not post the creator's residence, his domicile, because we shouldn't do that.
When you remote view, do you see structures like these pictures that we're looking at?
It depends on what we're after. Let me give you a real world example of the way we prosecute a task. We're solving for an unknown: who, what, when, where, why, or how. Some of those are known and some are not. Let's take.
Hold on, Ed. We're already at the break. Wow, this is fast. We'll be back with you. We'll go through this again when we come right back. And welcome back, Major Ed Dames with us. Ed, we were talking about some of those pictures and some of the things you can see during remote viewing, and then the break hit. So I'll let you pick it up from there again.
Well, our intention is to collect data. We really don't want to be. In fact, we do not want to stress actually clear visuals in our work, or the flow of information actually stops for technical reasons. So we're not interested in seeing anything. We're interested in describing them. For instance, I want to point out one thing, though, that's very important. You asked what projects I was working on. Mm-hmm. I had to drop a couple that were fun for me for a while because apparently ISIS has just announced that they have enough money to buy a Pakistani nuclear weapon now.
Oh, boy. That's all we need.
Yeah, they announced that 2 days ago. I have an ongoing Matrix Intelligence Agency project. It's once a month. This is a code name Firefly. My pros know about this. We check the matrix to look at the most significant current nuclear terrorist threat. So I'm switching that now to every week rather than every month because this is spooky. This is not a good thing.
That's dangerous.
Yeah, it is. These guys mean business, and they don't like us, and they have money.
We'll get into ISIS later because they just seem to pop up all of a sudden, but I have a feeling they've been around for a while, under the table doing what they were doing.
Well, we created the situation. We left the vacuum, and then we created situation where they were born. So it's the whole Middle East is destabilized now, but that's going to be par for the course worldwide soon. Economic collapse, and things are disintegrating pretty rapidly.
Well, when the tragedy of Fukushima occurred, you said that we're going to get some of that fallout, and we have. It's showing up in fish. It's showing up along the coast of California. How bad can it get?
Oh, it's terrible. These sanctuary locations that I look at, for my family and clients, we have only one in California near where you're going this weekend, and that's it. There's none in Oregon. There's none in Washington because of Fukushima radiation, not because of power grids going down. And if grids go down, there's only so much diesel fuel that is stored at a nuclear a reactor site, and a power plant. And if trucks can't get diesel to those plants, then they have to shut the reactor down, and that can only be shut down for a while. And if they break, like they will, if the New Madrid fault gets faulty, jumpy, there are very serious problems here. That's why I've been saying for so long, expect martial law. Expect it for any number of reasons, whether it's a pandemic, economic collapse. Don't be fooled by this Jade Helm exercise. It is what it is. It's a practice for martial law. These are agendas.
Yeah, it's not what some people think, and that's going to be an immediate takeover over the next couple months. People are concerned, Ed, because it seems like every time there's a major event, there's also a practice exercise going on at the same time.
A zombie apocalypse or something else. I know we're not only sheeple, we're boiling frogs, boiling sheeple.
Yeah, a nice slow simmer.
And it is an agenda. And I set up a date. I posted on your website, August 22nd. Tom already told me you'll be in Toronto, where I'm going to...
Once again, I wanted to be at one of your events. You're going to be in Las Vegas on the 22nd of August.
Yeah.
And I'm in Toronto doing an event.
I know.
The next time you set one, you got to check with our schedule first.
Roger.
All right? Deal?
That's a deal.
Okay.
But I'm going to do a 30-year data dump. I would like to retire. Would like to spend more time with my family in Russia. And I'm going to do a data dump of 30 years of both ET and human agendas that I cannot talk about on your show very much, but I want to go into a great deal. And these are complex things, particularly the ET agendas. ETs are not going to stop Killshot. Perhaps they could. They might have the ability to do that.
But they may not.
They may not either. But they have the ability to suck up radiation. We know this because we've seen it. We've seen an object pop off the backside of the moon. By the way, the Chinese are launching the first probe, a lander to the dark side of the moon in a couple of years. And there's military reasons behind that. The moon is the new high ground. That's it. Nobody talks about it, but it's the new high ground. That's why everybody needs to get to the moon. Because anything that's exposed and it's not on the limb of the moon or on the dark side of the moon, it's going to be a turkey shoot with directed energy weapons and other things.
Well, the late father of remote viewing, your friend Ingo Swann, wrote in his book Penetration that there are structures on that far side of the moon. What do you think of that?
There are structures, very ancient remains of structures on the sun side, on the Earth-facing side, that were mining operations by small robots. But there is a structure sitting in a crater we call a layer cake because it looks like a layer cake. It's fairly big, sitting right out in the open on the dark side of the moon. I'm sure the Clementine mission spotted this before NASA's operation got turned over to the Air Force. And it is doing something. We don't know what it's doing, but it's active. It's not an artifact. So I think the Japanese will announce that. You see, our governments, if they can't control something, or if they don't know what something is, or if they can't stop a Fukushima, they don't talk about it. Because it's not in control. Citizens don't want a government that's not in control.
Of course, I'm not sure they talk about anything even if they are in control.
Yeah, well, I'm going to on August 22nd because there's a lot that the public needs to know. It's very, very important things about really what's going on out there in terms of ET stuff, and out there in terms of our governments.
Activity seems to really be picking up on all fronts. Are you sensing that with your remote viewing?
Yes, I am, George. In fact, it's just that's one of the reasons I'm doing this. I just want to do a data dump on the public. Let them know behind closed doors, non-disclosures. Because I'm talking about very sensitive things here, and let the public know who want to know about what the heck really is going on out there that I cannot talk about. For instance, let me give you an example of what I mean. Let's say I used to work counter-narcotic stuff for a while when in MI. I lost a couple of men down in Peru and things like because we were taking the drug war down to the source rather than in the cities up here. And so I worked against the Cali cartel, but I was backstopped. If I got caught doing something, I could say I'm a bird watcher. There were people that said, "Yeah, he's a bird watcher," or whatever.
As long as you're not in uniform, right?
Oh no! I was. I had covers as toxicologist or bird watcher, with those kind of things, different names.
Binoculars, all that stuff.
Yeah, mystique of intelligence, that kind of thing. Like spy versus spy. But now, having not having a large assembly behind me, I would not be working the Cali cartel's Latin American drug transshipment centers and broadcasting that information for obvious reasons. My own safety.
Your own safety, absolutely.
Yeah, for my own safety. So there's a lot of other stuff that deals with these kinds of things that are very similar in that regard. So I have to be careful when I speak publicly. But behind closed doors, no. You don't have to do that.
Ed, as you look at the various problems that are out there, and there's so many I want to talk with you about tonight, outside of the Killshot and its possibilities and ramifications, what else is out there? Do you think ISIS is the next remote viewing issue, something that you see and feel?
No, it's Fukushima. Nothing. Fukushima.
Still Fukushima.
It's the greatest tragedy in recorded history, and it's the gift that keeps on giving. It is so terrible.
And most people can't see it, so they forget about it.
Yeah, you can't see radiation, but you can see the effects. Watch the next generation, the northern Japanese children. Watch what happens there. Take a look at you don't want to look at the terrible mutations in Chernobyl and in Fallujah. Depleted uranium.
Well, that's what concerns me, though, about a power grid going out, because all our nuke plants, we've got about 120 of them just here in the United States, they all need to be cooled, and those generators don't last forever.
Well, it's the diesel fuel problem. If the power grids go down, there's diesel fuel on site to keep the
for a while.
That's right, for a while. Trucks have to bring in more fuel, and if trucks aren't running for one reason or another, we have some problems. In about 4 or 5 days, you get a hydrogen buildup and then a breach, and then hopefully we don't run into a situation where you have corium spewing out into the ocean, like what is happening in Fukushima, and did happen in Chernobyl, but that was capped eventually with the help of 144,000 workers.
In remote viewing, do you see anything? You know, you've got the moniker Dr. Doom. Do you see anything, though, that is enlightening?
Yeah, the only thing I can think of is way in the out years. There's a problem with the ozone layer. We've seen the Earth; it's very barren in many places, and then there is ET intervention. We're many viewers describe this with these silver vehicles in the sky and people coming out of them that look like us. So we know where these people are. They're being raised on other planets far, far away, and some of them actually have small missions down here too. We track these people, and my contact protocol deals with things like this. But that's a positive thing that's way out there. We have a lot of bad things to go through prior to that. But
in remote, Ed, let me ask you this: in remote viewing, do you have the capability, assuming life after death? I mean, life after death exists. Heaven exists. Do you have the ability to go there and see the other side with remote viewing?
We've stumbled across some, as remote viewers, as experiments back in the military days. We stumbled across worlds, and they're very, very different. I mean, people are wearing white, and there's robed people around, and we don't know where this is. And we think it deals with a lot of the dark matter in the universe that accounts for 98% of the gravity. We don't know where that's coming from. These worlds are in another dimension, so to speak, and that's why they're dark. But they're light when you get there, when you transit that dimension. If you're asking if we can track of a human essence, vital essence, life force, soul, ba, ka, all that, the answer is no. We have no common denominator, no experience, no thesaurus, no memory whatsoever to be able to hook on to what this thing is that leaves the body. We can't follow it.
I wrote a book with Richard Belzer and David Wayne about the MH370 missing plane, which you believe went down in the waters west of Myanmar.
Correct.
They still haven't found that plane yet. Now, one of our theories, we came up with 9 possibilities. Nobody remote viewed on our end. One was, it crashed. The other was it was hijacked. It was taken to some island. But you still think it's in the ocean somewhere?
Yeah, I watched. I remote viewed. I recreated the entire scenario, just like many other mystery crashes. In fact, I did the Egypt Air Flight 99, the on coast to coast.
Yes, you did.
This is what happened.
Yeah, that's when the pilot tanked it, right?
Yeah, there was an altercation, fisticuffs in the cabin. Well, similar thing here. The pilot on the Malaysia Air Flight wanted to take the plane to Somalia, in the direction of Somalia, and actually practice for that as a link trainer. And what I did is I first wanted to find out where the aircraft is. So I looked for the skulls of the pilot and the co-pilot and one passenger whose photo I had, and found those off the coast of Myanmar. And then I recreated the events that took the plane down. But I also used remote viewing to probe the minds of both, in retrospect, probe the mind, because mind's outside of time. There's no time in terms of consciousness tools. I probed the destinations that were in the minds of the pilot and the co-pilot. And the co-pilot was completely oblivious to his boss's, his sidekick's plan, and was planning on flying straight north. But the co-pilot, there's when I downloaded all the data about Somalia. Anyway, the point was reached where there was a fight in the cabin, and the co-pilot locked the pilot out of the cabin and tried to regain control of the aircraft. Most of the passengers were already dead, hypothermia, and the co-pilot was dying too. He was in
much like that German plane.
Yeah, sort of. Yeah.
Jeez. So well, I get lots of emails when people know you're going to be on the program, and of the few negatives, they say, when are you going to nail him for being wrong? I think you do that to yourself. You've been on the program, and you've said, I'm wrong. I missed this.
Oh, yeah. Not these days and times. We're far more careful and precise than ever before. You'll see this in the news. I can't mention a few cases, but you'll see it pop up in the news because we've really perfected some location techniques now. Very, very accurate stuff. So it'll be few and far between in the future where I'm wrong. And I'm talking about working with the FBI and most wanted cases and those kind of things. I'm on the road the day after tomorrow up to on 2 missing kids cases. In fact, I'll be meeting Linda Lyons for the first time.
Oh, good.
Pass through her.
Good.
But if you or any of your listeners have specific questions, if you go to that website that's linked to your site, exposingtheagenda.com, that points to this event on August 22nd, there's an opportunity for you to actually type in a question for me, a specific question. And I'll compile those and address those behind closed doors with people, personally.
You've still got a staff of remote viewers, don't you?
Oh, I train them. Oh, yeah. I'm very proud of my pros. They teach at learnrv.com as well. I'm very proud of them. They're very good.
Are you seeing anything on the horizon that is beyond the kill shot? Because that could happen tomorrow. It could happen a year from now. Who knows? What else is pressing?
It's just tragic. It's just tragic stuff, except for the European Space Agency and the Russians exploring the outer planets. We're going to run out of money, as I mentioned many times before. So the U.S. space program will be defunct. We put all our money into military stuff. But the European Space Agency and the Russians, they will be out there exploring Europa and the outer planets and the moons. And that's exciting stuff as far as I'm concerned.
When you remote view, do you need to get yourself ready to remote view, or does it just come to you, like in your dream state or something like that? Do you always have to prepare yourself to remote view?
No. Your remote viewing is a very, very strict protocol. It's like the opposite of reading sheet music. The protocols are set. You do the same thing each time. Your eyes are wide open, but bond paper and a pen in front of you, and you just follow a set of steps that you're taught. And this protocol takes your brain state into high theta, we say. That's the state that you're in about 2 minutes as soon as you start to go to work. And it's like playing, reading sheet music.
Yeah.
Or playing the piano. You don't stop and think about the piece of information that you just wrote down on the paper. You keep moving, just as you would not think about the last note you played on the piano. You just keep on moving. I do have one fun project that we're doing later in the fall.
You have fun?
Yeah. Ingo Swann, the late Ingo Swann asked me, the first project he ever asked me for help on as a new student. And I was at that time the operations officer of the military unit, training officer as well, besides spy unit. He asked me for help to find the French plane, the Le Sol Blanc. And these are, Charles Nungasser was the pilot, famous World War I French ace. And Francois Colli, he was a famous navigator. They built this plane and were trying to beat. They actually did make it to the States. They beat Charles Lindbergh by 2 weeks across the ocean. But their plane was never found. It was assumed they went down in the ocean, but that is not correct. They made it to the U.S. mainland.
What happened to the plane?
The plane crashed into a mountain, and both the pilot and co-pilot died, but the plane made it. It has very, very unique fuel tanks and a very unique engine.
Ed, more to come. I want to talk with you about Amelia Earhart when we come back, and we'll take some calls.
Thank you for listening to Coast AM on our official YouTube channel. I'm your host, George Norrie, and don't forget to visit the Coast Insider membership area on coasttocoastam.com, where you can access our past, upcoming, and classic shows.